Another short video here on, we're going to call this Understanding the Setup. So the first thing we want to do, if you guys were watching the last video that we did as far as marking up a chart, we're gonna do a little bit of that on this one. We're gonna get into a couple more techniques in marking up a chart and understanding the setup that the chart is producing. We're going to mark up some lines here real quick, just so that everybody can see when you're marking a chart some of the things that you want to make sure that you have covered in the chart. We're going to throw in some. This is an OddCAD 4-hour time frame. I'm gonna go over a little bit of the things that you need to make sure your chart has on it, so that when the setup does come, you're ready for it. You're prepared for it mentally. You know where the drawdown is. I know a lot of people are having questions like, how do you determine the drawdown? And it's, some people are saying that there's a lot of these setups that are being called out that the drawdown is too much. So we're going to go over a little bit of that today on this little webinar. I'm not going to say how long it's going to be because I don't know. But we're just going to go over a few things. I'm going to cover a couple other extra techniques that you can add to marking up a chart. I was explaining some stuff to another student earlier that wanted to understand the setups and stuff. So here's just a handful of some major lines, major support and resistance lines. This is a 4-hour chart. When you're doing your chart marking, you want to start with a daily, a 4-hour, a weekly. Just depends on what you're most comfortable with. And then as you mark your chart, you want to zoom in to validate some information. So just a quick recap. So we've got it hit a high spot over here. I usually try to mark these just depending on how much action there is. I'm trying to mark these where there's at least more than one tap. So on this, you've got 2 wick taps or 2 wick connections. I marked it at the body. I didn't mark it at the wick. You've got some action here and here for support and resistance. You've got this line right here is a really big one because you've got it hits it here, 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 hit it here, and it looks like it might be coming up for another one. I think it personally is, but we'll see what happens. And then some other lines here. Got it. It hits here, here. I can probably bring this one down a little bit, or up actually. You want to make sure that your lines, your major support and resistance lines, are touching the most information, touching the most hits. Actually, we'll move this one down just a hair. I'm going to show you why here in just a second. Let's zoom in a little bit. Okay, so I want to make sure that I'm hitting this. I'm hitting these 2 wicks, and then I'm also hitting this wick. Just a little bit of movement. Well, looks like I'm not going to get it all there, but we'll go with this one because there's a wick right there. And there's a wick right here, so I'd say that's a good line. So we'll start with this. So I want to show you guys some stuff on how to understand the setups. So once you've drawn these lines, we can draw fibs. There was one I had previously drawn from up here to down here to kind of see how this was going to go up. It went up, but now it's coming down, and it's already hit a point over here. So before we draw those fibs, I want to show you guys a couple things that help to determine entry, exit, and drawdown. So the last major spike on this chart was right here. We can see that it's crossing this line. So we want to draw a box. I want to focus in on this area just for a little bit so we can really sink your teeth into this, into understanding this setup and how this works. So I'm going to draw a box over here like this. I'm going to explain this in just a second. Sorry, this program is a little slow. Apparently when you record, it just kind of slows down a little bit. Okay, so what this area is, all right, so what this is we've drawn it from the highest body that previously was there to the highest wick of the current high, the current highest point. All right, and what this is this gives you an idea of entry, which would be the lowest point, which you can see right here, and this is kind of why I brought it down here. Notice that this body back here is exactly a retest right where this thing hit it right here, which is why I wanted to draw it from those 2 points, so you can understand why that is. So as this was bouncing around up in this range, as it came down, you've got this big spike right here, and then it came all the way down, it kind of floundered, started to fall, went back up, spiked up, just tapped that line right there, and then continued the fall. So in a situation like this, this would be a good entry point. It's about 1.070-ish, roughly. Let's get a little closer and see what it is exactly. About 10, yeah, we'll call it 10070. The market likes even numbers. So this would be a good entry, okay? This could possibly be going up to this range again before it falls. It could blow through. We just have to see what happens. But this would be an entry right here at 10070, okay? And this would be 1.0, what is this line? 10100, roughly. That would be a potential stop loss. And you can take the entry here and set this as a stop loss. It really doesn't, it really just depends. It might just come up, tap it and drop it. It might come up and do what it did over here, where there's kind of some movements in this area. But we know that there's some very strong selling happening in this price range. Okay, it's about 70 to 100. That's about 30 pips. So you've got a potential 30 pip drawdown on this. Okay? Now let's draw another line here. Let me just make sure we understand this one too. Let's get this line drawn right here. Okay, reason I'm drawing this one, you've got some hits right here, and the last hit was right here before it went up. So that 98630, 98650, whatever, that area, that's a good solid place for potential buys if it was to go down this area again. You just kind of have to watch your stuff. So let's zoom out a little bit so we can see kind of what's happening in that area. Okay, so you want to draw some lines. Let's get another orange box going here. So we'll draw this one. Let's see, right about here. Well, let's see. Let's go with say right about here. Okay, I'd say that's a fairly safe area. Wanted to cover, notice that the bottom of this wick is also the top of this body, which is why I chose that area. I went and it pretty much cuts off right at this body, which is very close to, the bottom of this body is very close to the top of this body. It's real hard to get it exact, but you get the point. So you've got some good buy areas right here. As it came down, this would have been a good area to buy. All right, and notice that now you wouldn't have bought right here because you didn't know, okay? But when it went up and it came down and it retested this area, if you would have had this line drawn after this had happened, trace it back after this started to go up again, if you'd have drawn this line again as this one thing went up, when it came down and retest it, you would have had a buy right here. You'd have been ready for it, and you'd have been able to grab all this profit in here. Okay. Let's do a fib line. And just kind of see where we are here. Let's grab it from the lowest point. Sorry, this is a little slow. Now, there's a couple ways to draw fibs. I like it when the numbers line up. I drew it this far out because it's hitting the top of this wick, but some of the lines look like they might be off, so I'm going to bring this up to the body. That's getting better. Oh no, let's see. You got to kind of experiment a little bit with your fib charts, just so your fib lines, just so that they have to make sense. If you're going to use fibs, they have to make sense. All right, this one doesn't look too bad. So you've got some stuff happening around here. It blew through, didn't quite hit the 38, got pretty close, but didn't quite hit it. Came down, and then started to hit this 23.6 area, dropped down, it retested. This is where you would have jumped in, came up, blew past the 23, the 38, barely spiked past the 61. It came down and it kind of hovered right on one of our lines right here that we drew. All right, but it's staying in this 38.2 to 50 zone. Right now, it's just kind of in the 50 to 61 range. Okay. Now, seen some people now fib lines. I mean, it's just it's a mathematical idea, so you can manipulate it because doesn't truly mean anything. It's just kind of ways for you to help understand the market and when it's rolling and when it's not. Just going to manipulate this just a little bit, see if we can get some of these things to line up a little better. Well, that's pretty close. I'm using the longest wick on this side with the highest body on the other. So this is this is barely hitting the 38. It's coming down, it's hitting this line again. And then this is literally sitting right on the 50. Right here. These bodies are sitting right on the 50. It looks like we're in the 61 to 78 zone. I think this is going to go all the way back up. I think it's going to come up to here and before it falls again. Assuming there's no major news that's going on. There's other things you can do with these charts. There's a million different ways to look at them. There's different patterns. There's Gartley patterns, butterfly patterns, crab patterns. Some of those are helpful. We'll discuss those in another webinar. But this is just kind of to help you kind of determine entry and exit and potential drawdown, so you can kind of do some math. You can get out some of the apps and look at what your lot size should be based on your drawdown. I think some of that was covered in one of the webinars that we just had recently. But this is pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, we're here to answer your questions. We're here to help you guys understand what's happening, why. If you guys see charts that people are posting and you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. But good luck trading, guys. Hope everything is well. And